Well, that was interesting. I had forgotten to take off when I made the little video. I still had part of the other sound from the other video, and so we had this. I don't know if it sounded good or not, but anyway, that was interesting. All right, so we're going to be talking about the goddess Frigga, and specifically I'm going to be focusing on the concept of unconditional love. There is a lot of misunderstanding about unconditional love, what it is, how to receive it, how to give it, who should love you unconditionally, what that means. It's a lot of misunderstanding. So, this is going to be a valuable discussion for anybody, of course, who wants to know about the gods of our ancestors. And we're going to be talking about the meaning of the name Frigga, where it comes from. We will be answering the question as to whether or not Frigga and Freyja are the same goddess. I'm going to be talking to you about those of us, I should include myself here, those of us who have either are feeling or have at times felt that they were a victim of giving away too much unconditional love. So if you're one of those people that feels like you love unconditionally and you continuously love unconditionally, and because of that you are depleted and you are sad and you are unappreciated, we're going to focus on that, and I'm going to probably say something that may be challenging for you to hear. And of course, if you have questions about what love is and how to get unconditional love, I will be happy to answer those. So let's just go ahead and get started. So let me pull up my notes here so I can stay on topic. So Frigga. Frigga is the Norse pronunciation of the goddess, the queen of the universe. Right? So that's usually spelled like this. Frigga comes from the same root word as the Sanskrit name priya. Priya means beloved. So that right there answers one of the questions I put out there, which is Freyja and Frigga the same goddess? And this is a really common, annoying misunderstanding that I encounter in modern heathenism and paganism, and even among the so-called scholars of it. Because people make conjecture based on what's right in front of them, and it's not, an irrational conjecture. It's laziness. And so people will say, "Oh, Frigga, that's just Frigga and Freyja were once the same goddess, and that's why it sounds the same." And of course, they have nothing to back that up with. They're trying to use their common sense. They're making a conjecture based on their own experience. And this is the biggest problem I've seen, is to project onto our ancient ancestors our modern experience of anything. The racists are a good example. They believe that they need to connect to the gods of their ancestors who were white, and therefore their gods are white, and so they create this exclusivity and say you can't worship the gods of our ancestors unless you're white. And that's just their own projection of themselves. They're not comfortable with anything they don't understand, and so they project that onto ancient religion and then use that as a justification. That's an extreme example, but it happens innocently all the time, and I've already shared with you, one of the things that happens. People say, "Oh, Freyja, Frigga, There must have been the same goddess at one point, and then over time, blah, blah. And of course, they have, like I said, no evidence whatsoever to back that up. So even scholars make this kind of limited mistake. And it makes common sense that if we want to understand the language that we're looking at, then we want to look at other languages from the same language family, and we want to see if there's any cognates in there. And if there is, then that's going to help us understand things. So this is why I have, and I'm quite convinced that I'm right about this. Priya, which is the Sanskrit, which means beloved, and Frigga are the same word. Because what you'll have lots of times is that the Germanic languages will take a P sound and turn it into an F sound. And they will often take a Y sound and turn it into a G sound. Now that's not universal. For instance, we see this definitely in Norse. Norse will turn Y sounds into G sounds. For instance, the word egg. That was brought over to the British Isles by the Vikings. It used to be A. And they make it a hard sound, a G sound, so we now say egg instead of A. And so they would have done the same thing with this word, priya. If you just took the word priya and gave it to a Norse person and put it into common vernacular, at some point it would become Frigga, because that's just simply how they pronounce things. So this is pretty clear. Priya, Frigga, same word, it means beloved. So this tells us something about Odin and Frigga, because Odin is the king of the heavens and Frigga is his wife. So Odin, as you know, his name is often mistranslated as rage, and that's only partially true. His name, Wod, N, means he who consists of shamanic ecstasy. Wod means shamanic ecstasy. It is often translated as rage or madness, but it's the madness of somebody who is so inspired by being at one with reality. It's the shamanic madness, shamanic craziness. It's not fury like he's angry, although it might appear like that to us because it is so pure. And that's what's really happening, is that he is so immersed and is lit from within. He consists of nothing but wood. So the en sound means composed of, like a wood-en door. A wood-en door is a door made of wood. A golden coin is a coin made of gold. So he is woden, he who is made of wood. So, as you know, in the Indo-European tradition, you have when you have a marriage, a god and a goddess, even if they have different properties or different planetary aspects, they represent the what fulfills and completes the other. In terms of the masculine and the feminine, we understand that it is the feminine power, the Shakti, that empowers the male to achieve its highest essence. So this is true for all men. This is why men, when they fall in love, and I've been thinking about this a lot lately because modern sexuality is really, and I'm not saying this from a moralistic perspective, but it's really screwed up. Really screwed up. I'm seeing this now more and more because, I'm dipping my toes in the water of the dating field again, and it's just crazy how messed up sexuality is. Not just sexuality, but the masculine and the feminine. And what I'm seeing is that each side is disempowered in and of itself. So, when they come together in their lack of power, they end up harming each other. And so, I mean, I could get into it, but that's for another topic. It saddens me, to be honest with you. It's like going out there and meeting women and trying to connect. I come back sad. Like, wow, this is, there's just so many wounded people out there from love. So ideally, what happens is that the feminine empowers the male to be its highest destiny. And when the masculine is achieving its highest destiny, this is what brings the greatest love and adoration from the feminine. And when the masculine is at its highest destiny, it will then turn to worship the feminine because it realizes that the feminine empowers it to be its best, its most empowered self. So if Woden represents enlightenment or the ecstasy of spiritual union, then Frigga represents what precedes that, because she will give him what he needs in order to experience that. So if we look at her name, right, Frigga means beloved. We ask the question, how does somebody become beloved? If we just take her at her name at face value, then she is, among all of the beings in the universe, she is the most beloved. Why? Well, we know that she has a strong capacity to love. And we see this in her love for her son, Balder. Balder represents the soul, represents, if we're going to put a fine point on it, the human soul. Balder dying and going into the underworld represents the soul choosing to take on the ignorance of its infinity to become incarnate and experience life. And the gods weep. The gods weep over human souls going to earth because they can no longer be in direct contact with them. That is your soul. Your soul is that amazing. So let me just once again please attack the nonsensical idea that the soul is trapped and it is used as fodder by beings of light who try and trick you into going into reincarnation so that you can be fed off of. It's just pure nonsense. The exact opposite is the truth. The beings of light worship the human soul. And when you operate from your soul, the gods worship you. They are here to serve you. So Frigga represents the highest love for the human soul, the queen of heaven. And so that means that she, with her capacity to love, is what then creates her reputation as the one who is the most loved. So that tells you, if you want to be loved, what do? You love first. You become that which you want to become. And before any of you start to chime up and say, yes, that's what I do, I just constantly give. And if you're saying that and you're miserable and you're depressed, I'm here to tell you that you are not loving unconditional. So let's talk about unconditional love. Unconditional love is not the love of a martyr. A martyr goes around and loves everybody and gives to everybody and gets nothing back, and that lack of reciprocity destroys them, and they whine and complain and are miserable and all alone, and right? That is not unconditional love. Unconditional love means exactly that. It has no conditions. If you feel as though you are loving and you're getting nothing back because that's just what you do, I'm just one of those people, you are full of conditions. And the sad part is that you can't create enough boundaries to stop giving your love away to people who won't give anything back. The other thing is that they're not giving anything back oftentimes because, number one, you're not really wanting to find somebody who will take your love and receive it. You're wanting to be in that state of misery because that helps you avoid the real pain, which is underneath that. There was another part to it I forgot. But, if you really wanted to love somebody that would take your love and receive it, you would have the ability to find the person who you knew would be able to love you back. So if you're picking people that don't love you back, it's not because you're just such a loving person. It means that you're choosing people who won't be able to give back to you. Because remember, everything is a projection. Everything is a projection. So if you see somebody who you think is a poor soul who just needs love, and if you could just give enough love to them, they would be okay. That's really a projection of how you see yourself. That's really what you want for yourself and or what you did not get for yourself as a little kid. And so you recreate that and you project that onto others. Somebody comes along that's ready for your love, you're not going to be attracted to them. They'll be too boring. So do you understand? Does that you go after the bad boys, but the guys that are really available, they're too boring. So you go after the guy, the guy in the leather jacket on the motorcycle and the tattoos and the born to ride or whatever. So she's telling us how to be loved. The way to be loved is to love unconditionally. So when you love unconditionally, it means that you get joy simply by giving love, whatever it is that you're doing. That is the payoff for you. Giving of the love and seeing that the love is taken in by the other person and that it has the effect, that will give you what you want. Anything beyond that is great. Now I'm saying this with the realization that that is almost an impossibility. So be aware that I am saying that. So if you walk around, and this is another New Age thing, everybody wants to talk about love and giving unconditionally and all that. And these are the people who are the first to complain about not getting love. These are the first to complain about teachers who charge for their time, because if they were really spiritual, they would teach for free. And I could get into all that ridiculous nonsense as well. But again, this is a projection. That's what they want. They don't have unconditional love. Their love is full of conditions, and they want it all for themselves. And if you don't give it to them, then they turn that around and say, you're not a loving person. You're not spiritual. If you were spiritual, So who does have unconditional love? Well, Frigga has unconditional love. And who is Frigga? Frigga is the mother of the universe. Well, I shouldn't say it. There's all the goddesses are the mother of the universe. Because Hela is definitely the mother for sure. Hole is definitely the mother. Frigga is the mother. So Frigga is the mother of the soul, because Balder is her son. But she represents a special kind of love. She represents the goddess in the form of unconditional love. That's there. I think I finally figured out how to say it. Frigga represents the emanation of the goddess when she is in her nurturing maternal capacity of unconditional love. And she is the only being that can do this perfectly. In human life, the only way that we are going to receive unconditional love is from our mother. So, if your mother was not able to give you unconditional love, I relate, and I'm sorry, but that's where it was supposed to come from. And when that is done correctly, when the mother is able to love unconditionally, which doesn't again mean she's a martyr, it means that when she loves, she has no agenda on that love. She looks at the child without any filter and wants to know what that child's true essence is. And then she wants to reflect that to that child in a way where the child will be imprinted with that. When that is done correctly, the child becomes healthy and goes off to be a healthy, loving, happy person who doesn't take it personally when people attack them or when people criticize them. They go, wow, that's really sad for that person, because they already have been imprinted with that love. Now, human beings are not perfect, so there's very few people that do that 100%. I've shared this before, I'll share it again. What is that show called? Something Idol. You know what I'm talking about? The music show? American Idol. American Idol. You've got contestants on there, and they're all trying to win the singing, whatever, become the American Idol. And you have some talented singers, and then you have one or two genius, super sensitive singers that are like genius, brilliant. When they sing, it's like everybody weeps. They're so amazing. But they have this messed up childhood where the mother died, or they were orphans, or their mother was an alcoholic, or something like that. And they're competing, and they're all by themselves, and they have nobody to support them. They go out and they pour their heart out on the stage, and there's nobody in the audience that's from their family. Then you have the people who are good. Nothing wrong with their ability. They're very good. They're very talented. They're not at that genius level. They come out and perform, and their mother and their father and their sister have the banners. Yay, Johnny, go. You're the best. We love you. We don't care if you win or not. We're just so proud that you're there. And oh my gosh, we love your talent. When it comes time, the last of the competition, the genius singer will go up, and for his final thing, he will screw up and forget what he's doing. He'll forget whole chunks of the lyrics and have to stop, and then the judges say, we wanted to give this to you, but you made such a huge mistake, we can't. We have to give it to number two. And number two wins, and their family's in the audience. Well, that's why. It's because they received that love, that unconditional love from the mother and to some extent from the father, and they, and the brothers and sisters too, because they got it. So everybody has this ability to love unconditionally, which means they don't care what you do or don't do. They just love you for who you are, and if that makes you happy, that's what makes them happy. And so they're able to win because they're able to keep that confidence. Whereas the genius person who has no family out in the audience to reflect back to them their greatness, they fail, they fall. That's unconditional love. So again, if you're saying to yourself, I love unconditionally with all my heart, and it's one of my failings. Women who love too much, you are not loving unconditionally. You are loving with conditions. Even if your condition is that you want to be loved. Now, I'm not judging that either. I'm just saying be conscious of it. Just acknowledge what you want. If you want, when you give X amount of love, you want to get X amount back, just be conscious of that and own it and allow yourself to have it. Then you can pick and choose from what's out there to see who wants to give you what. And everybody's different. Some people are givers and some people are takers. Everybody can find what they want if they're honest with themselves about what it is they're looking for. All right, so let me look at my notes here and see if there was other things I wanted to say. I think I got to all of it. I guess I want to go back to the idea of Odin. Odin, as you know, is uh, enlightenment, awareness, completely absorbed in the awareness of infinity. So Odin is really self-absorbed. I didn't say he was selfish because when he gives of that infinity of himself. But his focus was to die, sacrifice himself to himself so that he could experience his totality of himself. And as a result of that, the universe revealed to him the runes, the secrets of the universe. Odin then shares that back by continuing to stay true to that within himself, and he gives it through his example. And so that means that his Shakti is giving him that power, which is Frigga. Frigga, again, if she is the goddess of unconditional love, what she does is when she's with you, all she wants to know is, I want to know who you are. Tell me about yourself. So that then she can reflect back to you the greatest essence of yourself. And when you achieve that, that is what brings her joy. That you achieve your highest divinity. That's what makes her happy. So she has she has nothing attached to that. She doesn't need or want anything from you, except for that. So anyway, there's that. Those are the kinds of things that I want to talk about today. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and take a little break here. If you're new to the channel, welcome. I would like to answer your questions. So the way that you dialogue with me is you write question, and then you write your question after it. I am going to ignore anything other than a question, so if you're writing your opinion, your whatever, I'm going to ignore that. And in fact, I would ask you to refrain from communicating with each other and putting your opinion, because it takes away my ability to answer questions. So I'm going to take a break and come back, and then I will answer any questions if you have them. Okay, welcome back. All right, so we may have some questions here. Let's take a look. Getting used to a new chair. I haven't decided if I like it or not. The other one starting to come apart. So got this at the Goodwill for 15 bucks. Can't complain about that. All right, so let's see. Athena's son question. I think that's the first question. Again, if you're new, I just want your questions. I don't need a cheering section. I don't need to have a discussion with you about what you think. I only want to share and answer questions for those who want to know whatever. So, let's see. Athena's son question, is Frigga comparable to Venus? Yes. Frigga would be the closest to Venus that we have in the Norse tradition. So you can pretty much make that direct comparison. Yeah, so Witcher, yeah, anyway, I'm not gonna bother them. The Midnight Rider says, question, it is my understanding the Greek gods, he says in quotes, like Zeus, Poseidon, Perseus, and Helena, are actual representations of the humans' ancestors, the Anunnaki. So that may be your understanding. If that's your understanding, everybody's entitled to it. I don't buy that. The Anunnaki, by the way, are simply the gods of the ancient Middle Eastern polytheism. This whole thing that's come about the Anunnaki and aliens and all that, that is something that came about. I wish I could remember the guy's name. I did a video on it. But that's all been completely taken out of context. The myth containing the Anunnaki is just simply like every other mythology in the world. It's about the gods. It's not about some secret, whatever. So I would disagree with you saying, number one, that. And on the other hand, same thing with the Norse gods. The Norse gods don't represent that. Now, later on, as we started getting into the Middle Ages, you found pseudo mythologies about Odin and all these other as being actual kings. And then you have kings and people who say they're descended from Odin. This is exactly what happened in the Abrahamic tradition when they did the big genealogy of Jesus, saying that Jesus was descended from Adam or whatever. It's just another way of, of mythologizing oneself in order to legitimize it. That is not what mythology is about. So mythologies are not written about human ancestors. The Anunnaki are not human ancestors. They are no different from any other gods or goddesses in any other mythologies. Okay? So, to answer that question, that's my thought about it. Spend more time watching my videos, reading my books. You'll get an understanding of where I come from. Again, that's just my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. Do what you want with it, but, that's where I come from. Mastering Midgard question. So, yeah, seems to be really important to you. You want to keep asking me about Gullveig and her connection to seed. And I'm more interested, makes me want to ask you a bunch of questions. I mean, that's not what comes to mind when I think of Gullveig. Not that that isn't there in the mythology. It's just not all that important to me. So there's something, and I'm not judging you for this, but there's a really strong feeling that I have that there's an agenda behind this for you that's connected to seeds. And anyway, so to answer your question, I just, it's not something that I really focus on or seem to really care about. So maybe that I just don't have an answer for you because of that. But I talk about Gulveg pretty extensively with when I did the the interview with Sethicus. So if you want to go back and listen to that, I talk about it a little bit more. Anyway, I'd rather focus on Frigga and Odin and unconditional love. Doesn't mean you can't ask me other questions, but that's where my mind is today. Question. Whoops, where'd it go? All right, so question, Donna Marie B333. Which direction in the wheel would you place Frigga, or would you? It's a good question. Now, as with the Vedic gods, and by that I do not mean the Hindu, although the Hindu gods are an evolution of the Vedic gods. So let me be clear about that. I highly respect and worship the Hindu gods and goddesses when I need to, when appropriate. But the Vedic gods were not directly, solely linked to one planet. For instance, Indra. Indra, if you were to force me into picking a planet, I would pick Jupiter, because Jupiter is definitely the lightning planet, without a doubt. But Indra is actually the Sun, the Moon, Mars, and Jupiter. He has all of these aspects to him. And so when it comes to Frigga, I also kind of feel similarly to that. I would definitely put her in connection with the moon. If I had to pick one, I might say the moon, but I can't just have her connected to that because she's also very strongly connected to Venus. So a lot, I know a lot of people who are following me want me to do this and classify the Norse gods in the same way that you can with the Hindu gods, but they just don't fit into tiny boxes as easily. But two planets that I would pick for sure would be the Moon and Venus. So you could, northwest is a good direction, and southeast would be a good direction, but also northeast as well, because she sits in the heavens and Asgard is in the northeast. So that's kind of what I'm hearing her say, is that that's where she lives. That's where she resides. So I suppose if you really wanted to connect with her, you would face northeast, depending on your chart. If you want to find out in your particular chart where a planet or a goddess wants to face and be worshipped, go to astrology.thunderwizard.com, because this is generally, for instance, like Mars for me. If you want to worship Mars, you face the south. In my chart, however, Mars sits in Libra, which means that Mars wants to face southeast. So for me to worship Mars, I'm best off facing southeast. So for that, astrology.thunderwizard.com, and I can help you figure out how you can best worship the deities in your life based on your chart. Cosmo Joe, giant blue question mark. Would this unconditional love relate to a spiritual state like samadhi, which is achieved by removing conditioning? No. Nope. Again, my friend, you're overthinking it. It just means having the ability to love without any conditions. That's it. It doesn't mean to be removed from an emotional state. Your emotional state doesn't matter. Let me show you the difference between when men use the word love and oftentimes, in my experience, when women use the word love. I've been with women that, when they're breaking up with me, right, they will say, "And I'll always love you." And then I think to myself, well, then why the hell are you leaving me? Because for guys, love is an action. That's why they don't want to say it. Because when guys say, I love you, they don't mean I have a squishy feeling, although they may have one. What they are saying is, I am committed to you and I will prove it to you by my actions. That's why they're scared to do it. Because once they say it, they feel like they're committed to that person for life, and they have to, hold them up, and it's a big responsibility. It's not to say that women don't also love in that way. I'm just saying lots of times in conversation, that's what I'll hear. When women talk about love, they're talking about a squishy feeling. So, yeah, anyway. Let's see, where were we? Looking for the questions. Dharma Child question, is the Norse character hell relevant at this time? Do you mean astrologically? I would have to take a look at where the planets are right now, and I don't have my iPad in front of me, so I can't do that. Is the Norse character? I don't know why you want to call her a character. She's a goddess, so she's not a character. She's a goddess. Is the Norse goddess Hela? Is her name? Hel is the place. Hela is the goddess. Is the Norse goddess Hela relevant at this time, considering the position of the planets and the full moon that is upon us? Also, does hell have any significance to your topic tonight? Well, only in the sense that, again, so Dharma Child, I think I recognize you. I would invite you to watch more of my videos and perhaps read my books. You get a better idea of, I've probably answered those questions for you in previous material. And you'll notice that because I'm talking about Mother Frigga, you'll notice that I'm a lot, maybe you don't notice, but I feel as though I'm being a lot less direct and scathing with my, my pinpoint unconscious mind detector. So that's because that's the way she is. She's far more accepting and loving and forgiving than the intense Mars that is within me, that wants to pinpoint problems and dissect them and kill them and slice them to pieces for your benefit, of course. So I think I answered your question. Hela is the goddess. As I said earlier, Frigga is the emanation of the goddess that represents unconditional, nurturing, maternal love. Hela is the representation of the mother, the goddess that represents, again, unconditional love in a very powerful way, but having to do with overcoming unresolved karmic issues. So she is definitely unconditionally loving, but her, where it really comes out is that after you've died, and let's say you slaughtered, you got an AR-15 and you slaughtered 100 people at a concert, and then you were shot by the cops, and then your soul went to the underworld. Hela is the mother that has no judgment upon you. And so if that soul feels a bunch of guilt or feels like a victim, it may create a hell, the Christian hell may create a place of torment for itself. Hela will not dive in there to save you, but she will hold your hand while you do that. She'll wait with you for hundreds of thousands of millions of years, however long it takes for you to get over your guilt and your victim mentality. And when you wake up from it and then you're ready to take a look at what it was, where you were out of balance, she'll be sitting there waiting for you without any judgment. And that's what you need at that point. You want somebody who's going to reflect back to you the truth without any judgment. So that's her aspect of unconditional love. And I've said at times that she, this may be why you're asking me this question, that she represents the highest awareness of unconditional love, on that level. It's like, who really wants to step into the sewer with you and sit there with you and with all the stench, without any judgment? Who won't say to you, let's get up and leave or go clean yourself off. They'll just sit there with you. That's Hela. Frigga, what she wants to do is she wants to bring out in you as you are alive. She wants to bring out with you the best of your soul. What makes your soul, what specifically in your soul makes you, you, the best parts of you. That's what she wants to bring out of you. So, you can say that, one is the unconditional love of the mother in the Southwest, and the other is the unconditional love of the mother in the Northeast, which are, they balance each other. The highest heavens and the lowest part of the underworld, they're part of the same thing. They're the two sides of the same coin. So you definitely say that about it if you want. Rami has a question here that again, you have an agenda. I don't know that I've ever said this. So again, when you throw your agenda at me, I may not accept it. So you're giving me an assumption. Sorry, when you're giving me an assumption, I may not accept it. You have an assumption here. Rami, question. Why is lying to a woman much harder than lying to a man? Did I ever say that? I don't know that I ever said that. Why is it harder for you to lie to a woman than lie to a man? Obviously, you have mom issues. You need to go see a counselor. That's something you bring up with a psychotherapist. If you were to ask me that question, I'd need to talk to you on the phone for a long time to find that out. Okay? So, anyway, let's find out. Sky-clad Faye, question. How do you accept unconditional love for what it is? I don't understand your question. Why is unconditional love something that needs to be accepted? Are you saying, how does somebody receive your unconditional love? That's what I'm hearing in that. What I'm hearing in that is that you feel as though you are giving unconditional love and people aren't accepting it. Because somebody who has unconditional love, one of the conditions is that you don't have to take it from me if you don't want. I just had this experience very recently. There was somebody that I was willing to, not on a client basis, as on a friend basis, I was willing to, spend a good portion of my time sharing with this person how to do some stuff online and make money online and all that kind of stuff. And the individual didn't take advantage of it. Sort of put me off. It was maybe later. And I just decided I guess they don't want it. Now, from my perspective, they absolutely need it. They say that they need it and they want it, but, you don't want it, you don't want it, that's okay. I'm not going to take it personally. Now, if I had conditions on it, I'm going to get hurt, I'm going to get offended, or I'm going to stuff that down and project onto them. They really need it. If that person really needs my help and they won't take it, and I do this all the time, and I give myself away to do. That's not unconditional love. So that question doesn't make complete sense to me. If you're asking, how do you accept unconditional love for what it is, I don't know what you mean. How do you accept other people's unconditional love for you, or how do you get other people to accept your unconditional love? Mastering Midgard, question, is the well of Mimir the same as the well of Ur? Good question. For me to answer that question, I got to be kind of beefed up on that part of the mythology, which I'm not today. So if I can't answer a question with a lot of depth and awareness, I'm not even going to pretend to try. So I'll look at that another time. Dharma Child, question, is every soul destined to meet their twin in this lifetime? That's not the question you want to ask me. It's helpful for people to get out of their heads and get into their feelings. way you get out of your head is don't ask general questions as though they apply to everybody. What you really want to ask me is, are you destined to meet your twin in this lifetime? So it will be more helpful for you to operate from that. It means you have to get vulnerable and get out of your head and get into your feelings and feel it. Having said that, I will talk about that. I don't have an answer for you one way or another because I honestly don't know. But I will say this. If you want to have unconditional love, if you want to have the feeling of being with your twin flame, and I know some people have, call it your soulmate. Some people say the twin flame is actually, some weird-ass codependent. I don't really care about that. It sounds like a New Age justification for just being in a codependent relationship. Your soulmate. When you meet it, it's like you guys stick together and you balance each other out, you fulfill each other, you complete each other. If that's something that you want, I do believe that you should act as though that is coming for you. Because the way that the universe works in terms of human incarnation is that if you have a deep, true soul desire for something, it means you're meant to have it. But we deny ourselves that if we're not connected to our true soul desire. One of the ways, listen to me very carefully, one of the ways that you know that you're not in alignment with your soul desire is if you have crippling depression, angst, pain, loneliness. I'm not saying that you have to be free of those feelings all the time. I'm not. But if that's your constant state of being, it means that you are definitely out of alignment and you are not taking fearless action towards what gives you the greatest joy. When you're in that state, it's virtually impossible to find your soulmate. Because I don't believe we can find our soulmates unless we are at least taking fearless action towards following our soul desire, meaning, I'm not going to wait around for something or somebody else to fulfill me. I'm going to go out and I'm going to get it. And I'm not going to feel sorry for myself. I'm going to go out and get it. So, again, I think your question is, are you destined to have your soulmate? And you'd be better off asking that for yourself than trying to ask a generalized question for everybody. Barbie Nay, question, how can I help someone achieve their higher self? You can't. It's none of your business. What makes you think you're supposed to help them achieve their higher self? Why are you even thinking like that? Your thought process should be, how can I achieve my highest self? And then you should be asking, are the people in my life supporting me and empowering me to do that? And anybody who doesn't should be out. And if you're trying to help somebody else achieve their higher whatever, then something's off right there. Unless you're saying you want to be a teacher, in which case that is because that's something you want to do. Go out and do it. If you want to be a teacher, you need to charge people. There has to be an exchange of energy. So you can't be teaching for free. The only way that somebody should have that kind of a feeling, again, is for a child. As a child is growing up, your thought should be, how can I help them achieve their higher self? In terms of an adult, once they get past the age of 13 or 14 and they're not your kid, it's none of your business. It's not your job. It shows a projection. Anyway. That's what I hear in that question. I could be wrong, but that's what I hear. Skyclad Faye, no, I struggle to accept it from somebody. I think there is a hidden agenda. Obviously past experiences, but time and time again they prove that's all they want to give me. Well, that's a good question. So you're saying that, from what you're saying, your experience is that somebody is trying to give you unconditional love, and you can't accept it, and whenever they try and give you unconditional love, out of your fear, you mistrust them because of your past. Well, see, this is what I was saying earlier, which is that, people who don't have unconditional love in their life are choosing not to have it, because being loved, and I can tell you from personal experience, being completely loved is a really frightening and painful thing, because it forces you to look at all of your pain and all of your sadness and all of the resentment you're still holding on to, and maybe cynicism, and that means pain. It means you have to let go of it, and you gotta mourn over what you didn't get from somebody else. And then you have to make yourself vulnerable. Allowing somebody to love you means that you are really, putting your soul in their hands, and all they have to do is squish and you'd be in turmoil. So it's a really frightening thing. So, when it comes to trust, what you're really asking me is, how can I trust? Trust is a choice, it is not a feeling. When I was doing rune reading, psychic readings, which were 95% of the time there were women wanting to talk about some guy they were interested in, and more often than not it was some woman who was having an affair with a married man, and or she too was married and having an affair, and yet she was telling me how the guy she's having an affair with was cheating on her and wasn't treating her right and all that. So they would want to ask me questions like, how can I get him to whatever it was? And I would say, you can't. He is who he is. You have two choices. You can accept him exactly as he is, or if he isn't doing what you need or giving you what you need, then you can leave him and go find it somewhere else. And they wanted to be in the middle. They're like, no. He's the one. He's just not doing what I want. How can I make him do something, this, that, or the other thing? And then I would ask the question, can you accept him exactly as he is, or can you let him love you? No, actually, let me rephrase that. They would ask questions like, how can I know for sure that I can trust him? And I would say, you can't. You can never know that. You have no guarantee that he will never hurt you. In fact, you can probably be guaranteed at some point he will hurt you on some level. So just get used to it. And then I would say, trust. If you had a cheat sheet which proved to you that they were never going to do whatever it was you didn't want them to do, then that's not love, and it's not trust. That's control. So you can't control anybody else, even the person that loves you, and the only thing you can do is choose to trust. Choose to be vulnerable to them. And when they give you that love, say thank you. Inside your head, you can be thinking, I don't trust him. He's going to do this, do that. Act as if you trust him. This is really important. We do get caught up in our feelings, and I'm not saying you shouldn't have your feelings, but there are times when, as you're having your feelings, you need to act as though, you do trust them, you do respect them, you do love them, and treat them that way, even if you don't feel it. And they will appreciate it, and then they will turn around and love you back for it. Because people are far more interested in how you treat them than how you're thinking or feeling about them. This is why women should not get bent out of shape when guys look at them and say, I love you, when they say, well, I can tell he wasn't feeling it. He may not feel it like you feel it. He means he's going to act on, unless he's lying to you and he's just a player. He means he's going to act on that love, that he's chosen. He's chosen to act with love toward you. So when it comes to trust, you do the same thing. You choose to act toward the person with trust, and then just flip out. You're going to have all of your feelings, and it's going to, that's why somebody like me is good, because then you can call me on the phone and tell me all of your thoughts and feelings without hurting the other person. By saying something like, I don't really trust you when you say that, that just hurts them. They're trying to give you a gift, and you're throwing it back in their face, and you think you're being brutally honest. All right, let's see, what else? Cosmo Joe, giant blue question mark. Heaven, Earth Ritual. If you go onto my channel, the thunderwizard.com channel, you can, I believe it's there, you can look for the Holy Tier I think it's called the Qigong meditation. It's also called the heaven-earth, meditation. So that's what he's talking about. Heaven, earth, ritual, holy terror is the only difference between level 1 and level 2, the mantras. To be honest, it's been so long since I did the level 2, I mean, I'd have to look at it again to see. I know I'm probably doing the level 2 whenever I do it. And so I am, I wouldn't really call them mantras, but yeah, the chants that you're saying is probably the only difference that I can think of. Athena's son, question, how would we balance having unconditional love and having healthy boundaries? There is no balance, they're the same thing. If you have healthy boundaries, you will be able to love unconditionally. If you do not have healthy boundaries, you will not be able to love unconditionally. Because when you do not have healthy boundaries, then what ends up happening is, one of two things. You either give more than you're willing to give. And you're doing that in order to try and influence the other person to give you what you want from them. When they don't give you what you want, you get hurt and you get angry. I never ask for much, but when I do, it means that if somebody says, I almost never ask for anything around here, means that they're always asking. Every time that they're giving something to you, there is a hook. They're wanting something from you, love, attention, something. And when it builds up over time and they don't get all the love they've been passive-aggressively trying to get out of you, then they go, I give everything, you give nothing. When you love unconditionally, this is, if you're going to give a gift, give a gift. It's like, if your friend comes up to you and wants to borrow $100, you say, you know what, I'm just going to give it to you. Because now your friend owes you something. And if they don't, and your friend is like, I'm his friend, I'm not going to pay him back. And then you end up, people lose friendships over that. Never go into business with your friends. I learned that the hard way. So, if your boundaries are healthy, you will be able to love unconditionally, meaning you'll know what you're willing to give and how far you're willing to give. So again, it comes back to, there's really only one being on the planet that can love unconditionally, truly unconditionally, and that's the mother. And that's assuming the mother has some emotional health to it. That's the only being. Everybody else, their love is conditional. You should never expect a marriage partner, a romantic partner, to love you unconditionally. They are loving you. They have conditions on their love. And they should. That's kind of part of the lesson is to, learn to love more and more unconditionally. There's only been one time in my life where I felt as though I got as close as possible to loving unconditionally. That was with my partner who passed away. And I was willing to give her absolutely anything and everything I had just to make her happy. Seriously. All I cared about was her being happy. I've never had that in my life. I don't know if I'll ever feel like that again. But I had it once. And even then, I can look at periods when I wasn't 100% unconditional, and there are things I wish I could, do over again. There are times that, if I could do it over again, I would, whatever it was that bothered me, I would be more than happy to put up with that, just to see her happy. And even to this day, that's the only thing I care about. Wherever she is, whatever she is, all I care about is that she's happy. That's it. As long as I know that, I'm good. Doesn't mean I don't miss her tremendously, but that gets me through the day. Isis Blackfeather question, how does one invite Frigga into their home and daily life? Is it disrespectful to evoke her? Absolutely, it is not disrespectful. She is the goddess that loves you unconditionally and wants, just like, imagine the perfect mother. As soon as their child cries, they rush to them. Will go through, armies of bullets to get to you. They love you that much. They need to be there with you in your need for her. So, of course, it is not disrespectful to evoke her at all. How does one do that? I mean, find a Frigga. The best way, again, to do that, probably get a reading from me, astrology.thunderwizard.com. I can figure out in your chart what the best way is for you. But not having looking at your chart, I would say, you can find a Frigga idol, and put it in your home, and treat it like a person. Give it gifts. Put things on it. Give it gifts. Surround it with things that have to do with love. Sing to it. Talk about love. Ask her to teach you about love. Read the myth of Balder, and Balder, going to the underworld, and do all those kinds of things. That will make her very happy. That'll bring her into your home. That will open her up within you. And so, I hope I answered your question. Witcher, question: how would you pray to Frigga in order to? I think I just answered that. I answered that by answering Isis Blackfeather's question. Evan Price, question: would you be okay with me sampling the music from your CDs? It depends on what. I mean, if you're sampling my music to then use it to make money off of your own stuff, then I would like whatever, I don't know what it is. I can't stop you, but, if you're going to do it to make money, like create your own thing, whatever the industry standard is, I would want to be a part of that. Having said that, if it's for your own personal pleasure or whatever, and to be honest with you, I can't stop you. You can rip it off of whatever CD my stuff is on. Do it if you want. So Barbie Nay says, yes, I want to be a teacher. So that's, that was answering earlier, how do I help people achieve their highest awareness? Well, the only way to do that is to be a teacher. And that means that you set up something, you're teaching something, and you charge for it. It's important to understand that you have to charge if you're teaching. If you're a healer, a teacher, whatever it is, you have to charge. And that's for multiple reasons. Let me start with the baser ones, which are, number one, it protects you. When you charge somebody, it protects you from, because students are like children, and they will monopolize your attention and take as much from you as you will give them to your detriment. That's not their fault. That's the way that they are in that moment. So by charging them whatever it is, that's going to limit them, because they're, the way I know somebody's serious is if they're willing to pay for my time. And you should hear some of the things that people say to me, you don't understand, I'm on death's door, and I've got this problem and that problem, and demons are attacking me, and I'll do anything. And I'll say, great, I would love to help you. Here's my, and I send them to my side. Oh, well, I can't afford to pay that right now. I've still got to get a new cell phone. And it's amazing. You find out, where people's priorities are. So it protects you, number one. Number two, it protects them. Because if you are there, the closest thing to unconditional love, second to the mother, is the teacher. Because the teacher does not have any agenda. And the way that you create an environment where you don't have an agenda is you charge them. And your only agenda is to have your time paid for. So when they pay you for your time, now you have all of your agendas met, which means that you're not afraid to tell them the truth, whether they want to hear it or not. And that's for their benefit, because then if you have an agenda, then you can use them and manipulate them, and this is why teachers don't date their students. It's very, very, very destructive. And that's, so there's that. Now, above that, when you charge, this is the gods. This is what the gods have told me, the ancestors have told me, that I have to charge people. There has to be an exchange of energy for the reasons I just told you. But on top of that, that unlocks them to be able to work through you. If you are giving away your teaching for free, you are doing it without being plugged in, and the gods are not necessarily working directly through you. And you owe that to the student to have that experience. So that is the sacrifice. In order to get the gods' attention, you must give them a sacrifice. They give the sacrifice to the teacher. And it doesn't matter whether the teacher appreciates it, understands it, or if the teacher is righteous or unrighteous. There are plenty of teachers out there that are not, righteous teachers, and yet they still have the ability to teach. And that is partly because they charge for their time. They set up that boundary. So the gods need us to have that boundary in order for them to go in and do their job. You end up getting the credit as the teacher because the student doesn't know any better. They see you and they experience the gods flowing through you. They think you're amazing, and your job is to just say, thank you, that's very kind. You go home and you know different. You know that you're just a human. And then that's part of the teacher-student relationship. At some point, the student will go, hey, that person's shit stinks. And then they have to ask themselves, do I still want to train with that person? Yeah, they still have stuff I want to learn. And then they really become a student. Now they truly are your student. Then they have respect. They give you the respect of the guru, knowing that you're just a human. Now they understand the true meaning of respect. It's not just about narcissistic selfishness. Every student that has left me, who has come to me with an excuse, and many times it'll be a personal attack. I'm not nice to them. I'm not nice enough. You're not who I thought you were. I get that shit all the time. What has happened to me is that person, from my perspective, has bumped into the edge of their narcissistic projection onto me, and they are about to move past that and get to the point to go, yeah, he's just a human being, but you know what? I love him. He still tells me what I need to hear, and when he stops, I'll go somewhere else. But for now, he still teaches me what I need, and I'm going to treat him like the guru. And they do that whether they know it or not, because that is allowing the gods to work through me and touch them. That's why you need to respect your teachers, whether you fully respect them or not. It's about respecting the gods. And if you don't want what they have, go somewhere else. All right, that was a big answer to the question about being a teacher. Let's see, what else? This is a weird question. Athena's son, question, is it possible to have many boundaries? I have no idea what that means. I don't think that question is coming from a healthy place. So you have boundaries here, but with this person you don't. I have pretty low tolerance, to be honest, except for with my son, obviously. Well, I mean, I don't know what that means. You have low tolerance. Having low tolerance for other people, I have very low tolerance for a lot of things. And I certainly have a lot of growth to do in my life. But saying things like I have low tolerance for others is sometimes a way of saying that you don't trust people and you have all kinds of boundary issues. You want to be loved so badly that you're now cynical, and so you act as though I don't need people. So there's something in that question. I'm just giving you an example. There's something in that question that comes across as like you've got some unresolved issues. And if you truly love your son, you're going to go get those worked on because you're going to pass those on to him, no matter how much you love him. So you need some help. Anybody who wants a session with me about anything, relationships, whatever, boundaries, go to career.thunderwizard.com. But, it sounds like you need some counseling with somebody. It sounds like you're very isolated and alone and sad and in pain. That's what I hear. Sky-clad Fae question, is there any runes you can use when talking to Frigga? You can use all of them. She's Odin's wife, after all. I mean, she's the Shakti of Odin, so she has access to all of the runes. She's the only god besides Odin that can sit in his throne. So I would say listen to your intuition. That's my, I'm trying to figure out the specific one for you, but, you can just talk to her. That's what I want to tell you. You don't have to work too hard to get her attention. She's your mom. She loves you. Just talk to her. She'll hear you. G the Gypsy question, can we work with Frigga or Freya if their names don't begin with the seed sign according to our chart? Yes. Yes, you can. Or should we find another deity with the appropriate seed sign? Only if you're going to do a mantra. If you're going to get a mantra from me, astrology.thunderwizard.com, what this person is talking about is when I give a reading, I will give a specific mantra for the planet that wants to help you find your highest path. I will, based on your ascendant, find a deity that works best for you connected to that planet. And then based on your moon sign, I find out which seed sound goes in front of it, which will activate it in your mind to help you meditate on it. I think that's what this person is talking about. You can do that, astrology.thunderwizard.com. Not all mantras are for everybody. There's a few all-purpose ones like Om Namah Shivaya. If you want to just chant a mantra, no, I didn't say that. Om Namah Shivaya. If you just want one, stop correcting me. I know what I'm writing. Damn spell check. Passing Arcturus question, Freya and Frigga are the same goddess? So Passing Arcturus, you came in a little late. I have talked about this before. There is another video. Again, everybody, if you want to get the most out of my teachings, go onto my channel. Binge watch my videos. Read my books, especially the one Mounting Sleipnir. I talk a lot about the names of the gods. I'll probably talk about this one as well. Most of your questions will be answered there. Having said that, I did talk about that in the beginning of this, so go back and watch it from the beginning. The short answer is Freya and Frigga are not the same gods. Technically speaking, they are not the same goddess. They are two different goddesses. Let's see, where was I? Bill C dropped $2. Thank you, Bill C. Let's see. So let's get to his question. Question below. I don't see it. I guess he's still writing. Isis Blackfeather question, how do we love someone unconditionally but also not let them walk all over us? If you love somebody unconditionally, you don't let them walk all over you. So from that question, I hear you have major unresolved codependent issues that most likely you are not going to be able to resolve on your own. You're going to need to go get some counseling. Go to Codependence Anonymous. If you have a history with somebody who did drugs or alcohol, if you had an alcoholic or a drug addict in your family or were married to one, go to Al-Anon or Nar-Anon. Is that what it is? Yeah. Learn about what your codependent issues are. I mean, I can tell your question has a lot of unresolved codependent issues, so you're not going to be able to figure it out. The short answer is, whenever you give something and you want to get something back, even if in your mind the getting something back is, I want them to be okay. I want them to, whatever that. If you have that, you're not giving unconditional. If you can give it away and they take it or they don't take it, then you're being unconditional. Somebody said, I'm trying to remember how they said it, but the way they said it was really brilliant. Somebody was sharing me something that they had heard from some counselor somewhere that said, if you have a strong need attached to them taking what you're giving, it's not unconditional. It's conditional. So that's the short answer. When you can give and you don't care whether they take it or give anything back, then it's unconditional. If you have a need for them to take it and or achieve something and or thank you for it and or, then you have a condition attached to it. That's why I say mothers are the best, because mothers usually they'll just give everything to their kids and all they care about is that their kids are happy. Most of the time. Yeah, if somebody's here's the thing about people walking all over you. So when people walk all over you, you have the experience that you are being victimized by somebody who is taking advantage of you and you're a helpless victim. The truth is, if there are people in your life that walk all over you, you went looking for them and you found them. When somebody walks all over you, you get to have this experience of being in pain and unloved and unappreciated and whatever else. And all that's happening is that unconsciously you want somebody to bring you to that feeling which is already within you, which is something you experienced in your childhood. So what we do is we try and resurrect old experiences and then fix them. And usually we don't. We try to have it unconsciously. We find people to brutalize us or manipulate us or hurt us or victimize us in some way so that then we can have that feeling again. And then we try and fix it. But it never works. So that's why it's really important to have counseling. Because without it, it's like, again, a brain surgeon does not do brain surgery on themselves. They can't do it. No matter how many mirrors you put up there, they're not going to be able to do brain surgery on themselves. If you have serious unresolved issues, based on what I'm reading, it sounds like you have major unresolved codependent issues, you're going to need somebody who can help you with that. I give that to you unconditionally with the knowledge that you can take it or not, and you may or may not do anything about it. I still love you and accept you. Okay, Cosmo Joe, giant blue question mark. So I have been focusing on circulating energy, qigong.thunderwizard.com. You learn how to circulate energy in what's known as the water path, which is the feminine energy. It's the most powerful. So I've been focusing on circulating energy, heaven and earth meditation, but what is it we are building with the energy if it's being sent outside of the body? Who said you're building anything? There's an assumption there. Why do you need to feel like you're building something? Why can't you just send the energy? When you send the energy out like that, what's happening is that you are expanding into infinity. So you're thinking about it again very literally. You're using your intellect to think literally. I want you to think figuratively. Become infinite. When you send it out, become everything. Now, there's nothing wrong with doing that to create things. I just got an email from somebody who's been doing celestial qigong, and they've been doing it for some time now. At least, from this person, from what I understand, is doing it a lot every day and has been doing so for months. And now he's hit this new level of the energy is again, it's like anything else. He's hit another plateau of huge energy. And he was right in that he started intuiting, what can you do with this energy? Now, once you do this, you have the ability to intend your reality, and you can do that. When you're doing your qigong, you can be sending out your intentions. It's one of the most powerful things you can do. So one of the things you can do with sending out that energy is have something, an intention for yourself, and send that out. You want to make more money, you want to find the love of your life, you want to get more students, you want to, whatever it is, send that intention out. That energy will go and create that. If you don't have an intention, that's okay, then you're you are uplifting all sentience in the universe whenever you do this kind of work and just send it back out. Everybody gets affected by it, no matter how unconscious they are. So that's your gift back to them. Like unconditional love, when you give that unconditionally, then you end up getting even more energy from it. Dervisio, question. How do you know what is your passion in life? Go look for this. Go onto my channel and look for the playlist called The Shamanic Secret Commandment to a Perfect Life. Okay? Go watch that. Welcome to the channel, by the way. I assume you're new. So the way you know what your passion in life is, first off, is you find out what gives you the greatest joy. I like a lot of things and some more than others, but I cannot imagine me doing the same thing over and over my whole life. Then you have not found your soul desire. Your soul desire, and first off, I never said that you do that one thing for the rest of your life. Your soul desire may morph into something else. And don't think about the future, just be in the moment. Your life is nothing more than a bunch of little moments strung together. Thinking about the future is, you're not staying here. The way that you find your soul desire is you ask yourself right now, what gives me the greatest joy? There's a difference between what gives you the greatest joy and what distracts you. Those are two different things. So again, I could go into it, but go watch that whole playlist and keep watching my videos. If you're new to the channel, binge watch my channel, read my books. That will answer almost all of your questions. Bill C., there's his question. Since the gods help us, what is their agenda? Why do you care? Number one, why do you care what their agenda is? It's a big question, but I can tell you that what I just said earlier applies to the gods. When you raise your awareness, all the awareness of everything else also gets bumped up. So by you achieving, your enlightenment, the gods get to achieve their enlightenment as well. So everybody, this is the thing, everything is selfish. But when you operate from true selfishness from your soul, when you feed and give to yourself, everything else gets empowered. There's not an either or. There's never, like in Christianity, there's never I know that I want to do that, but I need to do God's will. And, I hate doing God's will, but no. What makes you happy is what makes everything else happy. That's why the easiest thing to do is not try and figure out how to be a good person and to love unconditionally. That's hard to figure out. The easy thing to do is to ask yourself, what is my deepest joy? So again, for those who are miserable, who feel like nobody loves them and that they're all by themselves and the blah, 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 the easiest way to fix that is to ask yourself what gives you joy. Now, more often than not, people fight with that. They'll go, oh, that's stupid, or that's silly, or that'll never work. And that just shows that you're wrapped up in some other conflict. Whenever you feel like a victim, you're in conflict with your soul. Period. That doesn't mean when you're acting on your soul, you don't have a lot of messed up feelings. You can have sadness and pain and fear and doubt and all that, as long as you continue taking the action. This is why I made the example of the difference between how men use the word love and women most of the time. When men use the word love, they're not talking about their feelings. They're talking about the commitment that they've made to take actions towards being loving toward you, regardless of their feelings. That's the hard part. It's like that they're saying, okay, I'm going to be loving towards you regardless of how I feel. Because men, as you know, it can be pretty selfish. They want to get laid right away, all that kind of stuff. So that's why men who don't commit are players, because they just want to go and feel good and use you for sex or whatever. But when they fall in love with you, then they're like, oh, I want to stop doing that. I want to make you happy. I love you. I am committed to your happiness. Even if you don't, commit whatever sexual acts he may want right then and there. All right. Okay, so then he goes on, what is their next step in evolution as we evolve into ascended master? I don't know. Ask them. It's a good question, but I don't know. I would say focus more on yourself than on them. Okay, Athena's son. No, that's not a question. Athena's son, I find it hard to be around people too long. Well, that's your issue. You've got something broken and you need help. You need counseling. Stop justifying it, because it's not a strength. It's a weakness. You need help. That's all I can say. And this is coming from somebody who understands exactly what you're talking about. People exhaust you. Yeah, you've got some issues there. People aren't exhausting you. Let's just clear that up. People don't exhaust you. You exhaust yourself when you're around them. It means you want something from them and you're not getting it. Whether it's they're too loud or they don't treat you this way or they don't. You are exhausted because unconsciously you really want people to love you. You think that what you want is to be alone. No, I'm a hermit. I like being alone. But you like being alone not because you want to be alone. You like being alone because you can't tolerate being around people. And there's, again, I don't know the specifics, but there's something that you want from them that they're not giving you. And you're not able to be yourself with them. That's probably the other part. You're probably afraid to be yourself. You were probably hurt. Maybe you grew up in a dysfunctional home where you weren't allowed to be yourself. So when you go out in public, you feel like you have to hold on to that, and that wears you out. So I just want to challenge that. That's your narcissistic bullshit. You need some help. I'm not judging you for that either. I've been in the same group of people for, off and on for over 20 years. I have a counselor, I have a teacher, I do all that stuff. So if you're looking to me to be your teacher and you think I have something to share with you, then I would recommend that you do what I do. And I get outside help whenever I need it. Skyclad Faye, question. Regarding your rune course, do you have an installment plan? No, I don't have an installment plan. Listen, if you think of the one thing you need, like I used the example of, $1 million or winning the lottery. If I told you that I have the key to winning the lottery and it's going to cost you $5,000, you're going to find a way to find that $5,000. So I'm not telling you to buy my rune course or not. Completely up to you. But if you're telling yourself you can't do it because you don't have the money, you can find it and or save up. But it comes back to that, again, this isn't a general rule, so don't take this as a personal assault. I've been there. But poverty is a sign that you're out of balance with yourself. You're not aligned to your soul desire. Poverty is the universe's response to you not acting fearlessly on what it is that gives you the greatest joy. When you take fearless action, part of that is sometimes going into debt to get something that you want. When you do that and you are not acting out of greed or fear, but out of your own joy, the universe says, whoa, she's doing that thing she said she was going to do. Let's get her some resources. And when you're not, and when you find reasons to not go after your soul desire, the universe says, hey, you told me to support you when you did what you truly wanted. You're not doing that, so you told me not to, so I'm not going to. And then our experience is that we're in poverty. I never have enough money. I never have this or that. It's a signal. The universe is telling you a signal. Listen to yourself and go do it, and then you'll get what you need. Again, I'm not telling you to buy my rune course or not. I'm just using that as an example. Mad Sweeney's Beer question: does Frigga cross over into the Vedic tradition, such as Odin does? I'm not sure about that. I think there is a goddess named Priya, but I think she's a very low level goddess. Parvati would be a good example of her. So I can't answer your question. I can definitely say energetically yes, without a doubt. Is there a name in the Vedic tradition that is a direct? I'm not sure. I think possibly so. I'd have to do some more investigation. I think I've tried to investigate this in the past, and I have found, the goddess named Priya, but it's not very well known. But I think if I had to pick one, it would be Parvati. Parvati, Parvati. G the Gypsy question. After practicing the whole breath meditation regularly for a time, what sort of changes or manifestations or insights can we expect to see in our lives? That was such a Western question. What a Westerner. Only Westerners ask these kinds of questions. How am I supposed to know? I don't know what Mother Hole wants to do for you. The good news about that is that this kind of energy is so all-encompassing. People ask me this about the Qigong. They'll say, I want you to tell me exactly what kind of powers I'm going to get from doing this. And I'm like, I don't know. Because when you do it, it will release your latent spiritual powers. The whole breath is the signature breath to connect with the Earth Mother Goddess. So what you're asking me is, what will my mother give to me? She will give to you whatever it is you need the most. So how the hell am I supposed to? If you're using that, I don't know if you practice it. If you practice it, just keep practicing and you'll find out. Like this one guy, Jedi Black Knight, he comes on here. He's been doing celestial qigong faithfully, like for I don't know how long, a lot, every day. And I've been telling him from the beginning, if you stay, because he wanted to. I don't tell people how much to do it, but he really wanted to do it. And I say, what's more important is you stay consistent and committed. And if you stay consistent and committed over long periods of time, what will happen is it will kick in. And it'll kick in really strong. So just be consistent. So like a monk, if you're a monk and you're doing it for 2 hours a day, and 2 or 3 years go by, all of a sudden, boom, you hit these, all stuff beyond my ability to comprehend. So I don't know. This is what it's, I say things like the whole breath meditation, the heaven earth qigong meditation, the 30 Saz Rune Mudra meditation. There's a few more. These are all-purpose ones that if you just commit to that one thing, do it an hour a day for the rest of your life, it'll give you absolutely everything that you could, and beyond your wildest imaginations. So do it and tell us later. Rami, question, is there any difference between worshipping Shiva and Odin besides that they're originating from the same roots? Yeah. I don't know how much more you want to learn from me. They are the same, I want to say the same being, because they share the same root names. One of Odin's name is Ug, which means horrifying. And in the Vedic tradition, his name is Ugra, which means terrifying. Same thing. The word ugly, Uglice. Uglice meant, is the adverb of to terrify. So if somebody was ugly, it meant they were terrifying to look at. Now it just means that they're unattractive. But before, oh my God, that woman was ugly. Ah! And she was terrifying to look at. Does Odin have attachments out of fear? Passing Arcturus. Thank you for the $2. How could he possibly? I mean, where does that question come from? His name, Woden. Woden. He who consists of the ecstasy of shamanic, connection to infinity. How could you be in that state and have any attachments of fear? Why are you asking me that? You obviously have some fear attachments. So worship Odin, ask him to get rid of those for you. Bill C. Question, in your past life when you died in the political battle, I don't think it was a political battle so much as a religious battle, but I think I remember which one you're talking about. Or maybe, I don't know. I don't know which one you're talking about. I do not remember. He's asking me, in your past life when you died in the political battle, do you remember being taken by the Valkyrie? No, I do not. Good question. Barbie Nay gave £2.29. Thank you. Passing Arcturus, question continued. Remember, anytime that there's a question that goes more than a few sentences, you're stuck in your head. Question continued. In contrast to Shiva, Odin had always seemed to me to have this reptilian edge where he does everything he can to avoid death. Where did you get that? Odin hung himself on the tree of life. Where in that do you see him trying to avoid death? This is your projection, my friend. You're projecting your own fear of death onto Odin. You need to have a serious sit-down with him and work that out. Where he does everything he can to avoid death and ultimate transformation and preventing Ragnarok. Odin isn't trying to prevent Ragnarok. Odin longs for it. This is your projection, my friend. That is not Odin at all. So, anyway, we all have our projections. That's yours. Passing Arcturus, question continued again. I keep running into this block when I work with Odin, this sensation like he's resisting his own death out of fear while at the same time overcoming all fear to do it. No. The block you're running into is that Odin is trying to help you overcome your fear of death. The resistance to death that you're feeling is your own, and he's bringing it to the surface. So just keep working with it. This is a good sign. It means you're making progress. Don't stop. So good for you. Isis Blackfeather. Is Frigga a healer? Of course. The mother is always the... Who's the one that pops your blackheads and cleans up your wounds and kisses your wounds? It's your mom. I mean, it makes me... I get all emotional when I talk about it. That's your mom. Let's see. Any more questions? Dervisio question, how many questions may I ask in the stream? You can ask as many as you want. Just be prepared. I may tear you apart, because if I hear something in your question that shows me fear, or if it shows me some unconscious stuff, I sniff it out like a shark and I go after it. So think about your question clearly. Make sure that it's respectful. Make sure that it's thought out well, that you've thought it through. You can ask as many as you want, and if I don't want to answer a question, I'll tell you I don't want to answer that. How many questions can I ask? What advice do you have for someone who doesn't have strong opinions about almost anything? I don't know how to help you with that one. That's definitely not my problem. I mean, why change yourself? I don't know why you need to have strong opinions. Maybe you're somebody who listens. Maybe you're one of those people who gives people, let people talk about themselves and you can listen to them. Maybe you haven't found yourself yet. I don't know. I don't know you well enough to know. So keep working with me and watching the channel and watching the videos, and you'll probably get some opinions. Passing Arcturus question, why does Odin try to stop Ragnarok? He doesn't try to stop Ragnarok. He battles because he is a warrior, and he wants to die in battle, which he does. He wants to be transformed. Ragnarok and dying in battle in Ragnarok will transform him. That's what you're afraid of. You're afraid of having that kind of battle. So ask him how to be fearless in battle. and he'll explain to you what that all means. Really meditate on him dying to himself. He's not afraid to die. He longs for it. In fact, death is what brought him to be where he is. It's what brought him the knowledge of the runes. Dharma Child question, when chanting working with Woden, what is a good visualization when chanting meditating? I hesitate what comes to mind. Sacrifice. Meditate on Odin. Here, I can say it this way without. Okay. Blood. Meditate on Odin. Odin wasn't just hanging upside down in the tree. He was also stabbed by a spear. There is blood running down the tree that he is on. Pretty gruesome sight. So imagine that. That'll get his attention. If you can. If you can't, that's okay. But you asked, so I'm telling you. Dharma Child question when... Oh, I already answered that. Skyclad Faye question, what writings do you suggest about the Norse lore? The ones I've come across are sometimes difficult to understand. I'm not quite sure I know what you mean. I just read the Norse lore by itself. When I have the Masks of Odin is one that's pretty good, except that you have to bypass the vast majority of her editorial stuff, but that's one. G, the Gypsy question, does one of your books give instructions for using Thunderwheel and ritual and how to set up a ritual Thunderwheel? Why, yes, it does. It's called Thunder Shamanism, the Indo-European Medicine Wheel. Go to michaelwilliamdenny.com and look for it. Is that everybody? All right, I'm going to take a short break and come back. I may end things here because I may want to see if I can have a life tonight. I'll be back in a couple minutes. Again, my apologies for putting that together that way. The two different soundtracks are there. It makes for a pretty weird at the end there. That sounds pretty weird, doesn't it? All right. So I think there's one question left, which I'll go ahead and answer. What happened here? Donna Marie B333 question. Last week I moved to the beach, my joy, and have 30-second access to the shore. Congratulations, you're beating me by, I don't know, a couple of minutes. Is there benefit to do the whole breath in surf, public? I've been doing this in private before moving here. I do the whole breath everywhere I go. Doesn't mean that you have to sit in public and get in the posture and do the whole breath unless you want to. But I'll be sitting, if I'm sitting somewhere in public and I'll have my eyes closed and I'll do the whole breath. Do it all the time. Yeah. Yes. Short answer, yes. Oneness and zeros question. Thoughts on mind palaces or druid groves? Ones and zeros, my friend. Thank you for coming onto the channel. Welcome to the channel. Please have your questions about what I teach. So you're asking me about stuff that's not part of what I teach. Go on to my channel, watch my videos, binge watch my channels, read my books. That will give you better ideas of what kinds of questions you can ask, because I want to best help you, and the best way for me to help you is to talk about things that I have profound understanding about. Asking me about other stuff is kind of like gossiping, and it's a waste of your time and my time as well. So you're welcome to ask questions. I would like them to be something that I'm passionate about. That's why I'm saying. Okay, so I don't see any more questions. So that's it for me today, my friends. I think I'm going to try and go find some friends of my own tonight. Go do something social for a change. Some croissant. All right, I'm being silly. That's it. I will see you soon. Maybe this weekend, maybe not. But anyway, here's the disturbing music once again. Please enjoy.